how would you compare basically then, like the continuation of a people's convention, so to speak, on the outside, rain or shine? Because I know you guys got caught in rain at some points as well. Versus from what we've heard about going on the inside. You know, we're now looking at this movement is now looking at an inside versus outside game. There's some people who are staying on the inside and going to try and plug them along regardless of what happened last week. And there's another cadre, a growing cadre, that is really focused on the outside game, whether it's in another party or just being independent and kind of, you know, making it work however possible.
Well, the rain was definitely a factor. That's the one Hillary supporter I made friends with, though, was during the rain. A wonderful woman by the name of Nina, who by chance watches. We love you, Nina. But the thing I guess I'd like to say what the difference of inside and outside is, because the Bernie delegates who were inside came outside. What I tried to say in the piece today is there were two conventions. The Hillary supporter, easily identified in a $3,000 suit. The Bernie supporter, easily identified in a layer of sweat and a T-shirt. And that sort of social comfort, I really felt, was the divide, even if it wasn't talked about. If you were downtown around the convention center, you ran into more Hillary people doing their workshops at the Pennsylvania Convention Center, and they were often bragging about how much they donated to get credentialed and things like that. Around the fence line is where you'd run into Bernie delegates and, of course, the Bernie protesters, and that's where you'd hear stories about, I have no idea how I'm going to come back from paying for this trip, but I had to be here. There's an economic rift that we've talked about all year long that was quite apparent in who represents who at the convention. And I think that's true with the media coverage as well. Our team, John McDonald, would often ask people from major media sources if they felt guilty for the way they were covering the convention. And they didn't, because they were getting their information of 200 to 300 protesters from Magic, because they never went out there. We had some intermediate brethren. We had to really peer pressure to get out there. Everybody was comfy inside Wells Fargo, where you could drive up nice and close. Nobody wanted to do that 2-hour hike out to the protest zone. But once you did that hike, a whole different world. People were camping in FDR Park. There were definite hippies, like straight up, you know, singing songs and playing bongos kind of hippies, but there were a lot of just
drums.
just a lot of concerned citizens. And I think it's fair to say, sure, millennials were a big part of it, but it was across ages, across races. The only thing that you could definitely see was there was an income gap between the two sides. And I think that kind of sums up our last year.
And I think that's a really interesting point, that you saw the income gap, particularly when you're looking at the delegates and participants between the two candidates. When you think of this notion that it is privilege that keeps Bernie supporters from getting behind Hillary Clinton, when in fact it's actually the opposite. You know, people say that, you know, whether Bernie supporters are not voting or going green or whatever strategy that's being employed, it's because they're privileged somehow. They somehow do not really suffer any hardship, and we see that that's not the case, right? We have so many different examples. I actually have, maybe I'm finally going to write something. I have a friend from grad school who messaged me. He's Mexican American, and he was just irate. He's like, I'm not supporting her, Noah. We have to write something. So we're going to try to write about this idea that privilege, that not supporting her is a privileged position, when in fact it's the opposite, that people are privileged, and that's why they're supporting her, and that's why they're badgering and fear mongering to get people to support her. And I think what you were just saying about how, you know, looking at, because I know several people who were delegates. I know some people were delegates who couldn't afford to go, and alternates went instead. I know people who, I mean, really, you know, they could have done things with their kids. You know, there are families who didn't go on summer on vacations because mom or dad, or both mom and dad, or father and daughter were delegates, and this was really important.
So get their medicine because they spent that money on their trip to Philadelphia.
Yeah. See, we need universal health care. We need universal health care so people can afford to participate in democracy. See here? But what is your sense though going forward about the energy, about maybe, we see the two, I mean, it really is two different worlds, right? Even looking at the way that this has been characterized in the aftermath. And we continue to have the narrative being driven by mainstream media outlets as it is.